Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast,
where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture.
We talk to producers all over the country,
from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations.
Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades,
we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs.
Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. It is Pastured Pig Podcast time again. Excited to be back with another episode, what I hope is to be another great episode. It's one of these things, you get in the mood right now with the weather playing tricks on us here in West Virginia. Go from cold to warm. One day, shirt sleeves, the other day, heavy coat. But man, I'm getting excited. The bug is in. It's time to get out and really start being on the land and working the things, not working mud as much as we were. So anxious for that. Really looking forward to moving our pigs to some new pasture. We've got some that obviously we didn't have them on over winter. They were in the sacrificial area, so it's nice to get them over on some new pasture when things start to green up. So really looking forward to that. Well, as another thing that I'm excited about is our lineup of interviews. I've got some in the bag already that we'll release in a timely manner, but I'm just so excited I want to release them all. It's like, let's just do one right after the other. But then, obviously, I'd have a very big hole a couple weeks later. So we don't want to do that. We want to be diligent, and we want to pace ourselves. This is a marathon, not a sprint. But I hope you're enjoying these. We got some really good ones where we're, again, talking to producers. But got some different ones that are coming up with people in the industry, but from a different perspective. So I think you'll appreciate that as we get into it. Speaking along those lines of topics for podcasts, right now I'm kind of doing an APB on if somebody has a lead on a veterinarian that they recommend, or maybe they even use. It'd be best if they use them so they could speak from experience. And that veterinarian be willing to come on the podcast, or if you just want to give me the contact info and you don't mind me reaching out to them, I'll try to explain the most agreeable way. Some stranger calling them and say, "Hey, do you want to record a conversation?" But I'd really like to have a discussion with somebody who does treat pastured pigs as a vet and would love to have their experiences. We talk about some specifics. You guys have been sending in some great questions that I would field to that vet. So that'll be the first step. If we can get one nailed down and I can get an interview scheduled, then when I do these intros in between interviews for upcoming episodes, then I'll let you know, hey, I got one booked. Let's start sending questions. And that way we can really, if there's any specific things you'd like to hear from a vet, if you're like me where you're in a vet desert, you really don't have a lot of options in your area, then this may be an opportunity for you to ask a question that you've been wanting to know for a while. Well, I would be remiss. It's like public broadcasting fundraising, I guess. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Patreon. Appreciate, since we launched, those that have joined Patreon to be part of our support here so we can really take this to the next level. And I want to give a shout out to Jed Bicker and Dana Probert and Noah West and Bill Speed. And then our latest that just came on this week, Dan Proietti. Man, I hope I didn't slaughter that last name. That's the thing, I'm terrible at name pronunciations. But I really appreciate those people coming on, supporting you, taking that first step. We are still sticking with our plan. When we hit 20 supporters, then we will launch more of our online stuff with the website and the directories and those type of things. So I think that would be beneficial for us all. So I would hope that if you can, please consider becoming a supporter. It's my understanding that Patreon only bills your credit card at the beginning of the month, so you can sign up and obviously not pay until April the 1st. How's that for a marketing ploy there? Along those lines, been talking with these people already, getting some ideas going about just what would be beneficial for the Patreons for me to say thank you for supporting us. What can we do? And I think what we've gone into, and we'll start this in April, is anyone that supports at any level will have access to some additional recordings. I would assume they would, what I'd call additional podcast episodes, where we take a deep dive into marketing and some of the business setup when it comes to pastured pork operations. We'll still obviously keep doing our interviews. We're not going to slow down there. We're going to release interviews every other week. So those of you guys that can't or are just not in a position right now to be a Patreon supporter, we understand. I don't want to take anything away from what you've experienced with the podcast in the last 2 years. We just want to add additional value, as a marketing guy would say. So this value-added opportunity that we'll have if you become a Patreon supporter is a deep dive into marketing. And I've with 20 years of marketing experience, I started listing off things and realized, oh my goodness, this could literally take the next 3 years if I get on and talk about all the things that I'd like to talk about. But we'll not go that long, but we are going to drop into specific topics that are very timely. Everything from how to even start with cost analysis, pricing your product, to the full-blown setup of online marketing, AdWords, those type of things. What do you do to go out and acquire new customers? So if you become a supporter, like I said, in April, we'll start dropping those episodes, and that'll be behind the paywall there for Patreon. But that's my way of thanking those people that have come to support just to see this community grow and us build the podcast a little bit more. All right, well, I have done the sales pitch enough. Let's move into our discussion for tonight. And this one, I really enjoy talking to everybody. And I think I say this like a broken record. I probably should just pick up a recording and say this over and over again. But I really enjoyed this conversation with Patrick Milligan. And Patrick has a very interesting story, as you'll get into when you listen. He was a DJ, and then COVID hit, and then he transitioned almost immediately to a pastured pig farmer. And that is the most bizarre transition I believe I've ever heard. But I won't give any more away. I'll let him say it in his own words. But it was really, really fun talking to him. And of course, we even started riffing on some ideas that you could do. Got all this DJ equipment and all these hogs. How do we do a mashup here? So, well, without further ado, we'll jump into this conversation with Patrick, and I'll catch you guys on the close. Tonight, we're reaching across the country, going all the way over to New Mexico, and we're talking to Patrick Milligan from Stanley, New Mexico, and he has Milligan Ranch, nm.com. Well, Milligan Ranch, I assume, in New Mexico is that proper name there. So, Patrick, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us join you.
All right. So, New Mexico, this, I'm always fascinated. I know people think, okay, Troy always asks about weather first and foremost, but I'm always fascinated by all the different weather patterns you get across this beautiful country. So, you mentioned in some of your pre-screening information you sent me that New Mexico, you still get to experience 4 seasons. When I think of New Mexico, I think of high elevation desert. So explain that situation for me right now as to what you get to experience there.
Absolutely. So we do have all 4 seasons. There's actually standing snow outside right now. So we do get all the normal, most states, rain, sunshine, snow. We pretty much get it all. We are at a higher elevation as well, too. But most people, when they think of New Mexico, they think of just, desert. But we do have all the seasons. We do have forest in our mountains as well, too. So we have a little bit of everything here.
All right, excellent. So if you don't mind me asking, how much elevation are we talking here?
I want to say we're at about 38. I want to say 38, 36 is the elevation. So quite a bit up there. A lot of people, when they travel here from sea levels, they do get a little bit of altitude sickness as well.
So is that a potato chip buster? That was the always thing that cracked me up. I had a friend that lived in New Mexico, and he was a solar, I don't know what he was, but solar observatory type thing. And he'd always talk about when they go down to town, because the observatory was at 10,000 feet or somewhere around in there, and when they go down to town, much, much lower in elevation, bring potato chips back, they'd have to open the bags up because they'd explode in the car.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, I always thought that was fascinating.
I don't know from experience, but I have heard of that.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Well, yeah, the things you learn on the Pastured Pig podcast of exploding potato chips.
Right.
All right, so tell me about Milligan Ranch.
Okay, so we're actually located in Stanley, New Mexico, like as you said. We do pasture raise our pigs. We are a desert region, but like I said, we do get all the seasons. So we are raising, they're a mixed breed of Hampshire Duroc that are mixed. I want to say total right now we're at about
And you are a farrow to finish operation?
We are.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get into more details about the farm, I think the audience is really going to appreciate this story, because this is the resiliency of a good pig farmer when it comes to COVID and some of the other issues. So, Patrick, you, without getting into the gory details, you are using your pastured pig farm to be the primary source of income for your household, correct?
That is correct.
And why is that? Why? And that just happened this year, but why is that due to COVID?
Because I do have another business as well, too. One of the leading DJ entertainment companies here in New Mexico that we specialized in weddings and corporate events. When COVID came around, we got some pretty strict orders from our governor here, and she pretty much shut everything down to no gatherings of 5 to 10 people max. So we were out of work since March. With us being in agriculture, we were able to take pretty much profits that we still had from the DJ business and really invest into that, into our marketing to really push our pastured pork and all of that, which has been very successful. There was a big need that we didn't even know that there was that big of need for it, and I was able to fill in that income gap for us.
Okay. So I have to ask the question. I think a lot of people are probably asking their radios or their iPads or iPhones or whatever they listen to it right now. So COVID hits. You have a very successful DJ business, one of the largest in New Mexico. You stated in your pre-screening stuff, 12 employees. So you see COVID hit, that restrictions hit real quick, and it's like, oh, this is going to cripple our business. You know what we need to do? We need to raise pigs. So how did you come to that rationale there? Were you already in the pig business to some degree, or was that just the next logical step?
We were in the pig business to some degree. It was actually started off as raising potbelly pigs.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was actually first adamant against pigs to begin with, believe it or not. And my wife picked up some potbelly pigs and started breeding those. And she had some pretty major success selling those as pets around the area. A lot of people in the area really want potbelly pigs for pets. And then we started getting a lot of questions for pork, processed pork, and we were already doing other types of animals with like chicken eggs and duck eggs was kind of really like our main thing that we were doing there. So we got into doing, the butcher-raised hogs, and that just really took off. There was a huge demand for that. I think there's only one other farm I can really think of that's doing it at scale, and they couldn't even keep up with it. So we're running into that same issue that we don't have enough work to go around. So it's a problem, but it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. And again, I'm having a little fun with you there, and I appreciate your allowing me to go down that path. But I just love the idea. I love talking to business owners, especially small business owners, and seeing just how you have to adapt no matter what the situation is. Whether it's, okay, DJ business, we're going this direction with it, we're going that direction. Do we invest in more money or more equipment? You mentioned a warehouse, all these things that you make a decision. And then when it comes to a screeching halt, to be that resilient, to be that adaptive, to say, you know what? I'm going to hang up my headphones, I'm going to turn off my turntable, and I'm going to put on my overalls, and we're going to dive headfirst into pastured pigs. I think that's incredible. So along those same lines, what was that transition like? So March is pretty much when the world came to a grinding halt. So at March, do you say, okay, it's now time? You mentioned taking this money. Do you just turn around and say, okay, I think I've got an idea. Here's something I've been kicking around. Let's just go full bore into this, pardon the pun. Or was it really just kind of stick your toe in the water a little bit? How quickly did you transition there?
It was a rather quick transition, just on the amount of scale that we were doing. It was nothing compared to what we were doing now. So we definitely grew the pork business dramatically since March now into December. It was one of the best things and decisions that we made at that time to do, and I'm thankful that we did.
Yeah. So was this a purchase at that point of obviously not breed stock, because you're not? Did you just look and see, okay, what kind of what kind of weaning stock can I get, growers, maybe some that are even mostly through their life cycle, that type of thing. What was your opportunity there?
So the opportunity, we did know this fellow pig farmer, and we did buy some weaning pigs and breeding stock from him as well too. So that's how we got started with those pigs as well. And then there was a lot of CAFO pigs that came into our market as well too. We did buy a number of those to be processed, and that was a very interesting experience raising those pigs, going from an indoor confined space to being totally put out on a pasture. So that was definitely a learning experience as well too.
Yeah, and what we had talked about before we started recording, that limited experience in pastured pigs. So you had a lot of challenges there, of course. But I want to ask you, what about infrastructure? How much infrastructure investment did you need to make immediately at that point to be able to handle this?
Infrastructure was high to begin with. Running hot wire and all of that around the property. I did already previously have the land before the pandemic really hit. So that was already fenced off, 80 acres. So it was really just adding hot wire and grading paddocks to be able to move the pigs from paddock to paddock to paddock, and also the infrastructure and bulk feeders as well too.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. So you had the land already. Do you reside on that 80 acres, or is that somewhere else?
It is not. It's about 15 minutes from where I live, so not a bad drive at all. I go out there daily to check on them, check feeders, make sure everything is going correctly how it should be. So it's about a 15-minute drive, but very easy to get to.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. So, wow. Yeah. There's like a major fork in the road here, the discussion here, and I want to cover both forks. So let's back up and let's talk about pink pigs. So, as many of us know, there was a flood of CAFO pigs simply because of the large production houses being shut down due to COVID, and we just see this spilling over of these pigs available throughout the country. I mean, everywhere. So you looked at that. You brought those pigs in. Give us a post-mortem on that. I assume those pigs have been processed now and have been retired. So give us a post-mortem on that. The pros, the cons of that process.
The pros, they do grow quickly. That was a pro. That's probably about the only pro that I have for that is how quickly that they did grow out. The list of cons goes, on and on. They're not, adapted to being outdoors. They're not the most friendliest pigs as well, too. They don't get any interaction, as our other pigs do. So they were very skittish, timid. They weren't the most friendliest pigs. And just noticing, too, processing, like the quality of pork isn't where I would want it to be 100%, as some of our Hampshire Duroc mixes. I think that pork is just far more superior than those ones that we had processed that came out of confinement. So a lot more cons than pros. Other than the pro is just that they grew quickly and they're very cheap to pick up. They brought them into our market. I want to say they're selling them for like $30 to $40 a head by the trailer load when they were coming through our state. So that would be the only two pros. Other than that, they sunburn very easy, and they just don't know how to be a pig outdoors. So they've kind of lost that trait from just being bred for confinement. They don't know how to be a pig.
Yeah, and that was my question I was going to ask. Was about the sunburning, especially I assume a New Mexico summer is not the most gentle situation to be in. But
no, lots of water, lots of mud.
yeah, I bet. But again, and I can see where maybe some people are grumbling right now. Oh yeah, CAFO pig, can't believe that guy did that. But I respect and appreciate the leverage that allowed you to do. So being able to bring those pigs on quickly, turn them, and get some cash flow, because that's what it's all about, especially when your primary source of income just went belly up overnight because of government restrictions. I appreciate that adaptability to leverage, and of course seeing that this is an ends to a means to get to where you want to be. So you prefer now to have this Hampshire Duroc mix, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, tell us about that a little bit.
I did fail to mention as well too. One of the cons as well too. It made me a quick learner and a believer in biosecurity for our farm as well too. So we did end up bringing in a respiratory pneumonia into our pigs with those pigs, unfortunately. So we had a bout of pneumonia going through. So definitely made us, rethink biosecurity and all the other things that take place with biosecurity, quarantine pigs and not, separating them for 30 days, not letting them be around your other stock. So that was a big learning curve as well.
Yeah, and real quick before you go on and talk about the Hampshire Duroc mix, I think it's important to look at that and say, okay, here's a hard lesson learned, or at least a lesson learned by boots on the ground, and getting that experience and saying, wow, okay, yeah, I get this now. It to me that resonates way more than anything you can get in a book or listen to on a podcast or watching a YouTube video. So those real life experiences really kind of resonate. So you look at that. So I assume at that point you had some of the CAFO pigs on, but it sounds like you'd already had your Duroc Hampshire mix breeding stock or some other stock on the farm as well?
Yes, it was a Hampshire Duroc mixes.
Okay. So what do you like about that, or what drew you in that direction?
The quality of flavor, even having processed compared to the CAFO pigs that we had, just getting that meat back from the processor, just the color of the meat, the marbling, it was just a night and day difference, and the quality, and you could see it just looking first without even having to taste it. You could see the major difference between the two.
Yeah, Hampshire Duroc mix is something I've raised for 4 or 5 years and just recently switched for other reasons. I was always happy with the production, the tail end of the process, the getting the meat back, the quality of meat, the amount of meat, the fact that I could finish a solid hog in 7 months. I was getting 350-pound hogs, a little bit more than I should have, but
they grow quick.
They do, and they produce well. What I discovered here for our farm is just this is really hard on the pasture, and we have a lot of topography, changes, undulations with hills and mountainsides. So it was really tough for us, just because they seem to be a little bit heavier on the ground. But so you've finished out. I assume you've had one full cycle of Duroc Hampshire mix since the spring. How many of those did you process this year so far?
The Hampshire Duroc mixes?
Yeah.
I want to say we processed close to either 52 or 53 of those.
So you ain't fooling around here, and that's another thing I like about this is that when it was time to go, it was go. So
yes.
So let's unpack that. So we've talked about the CAFO pigs. Let's set those aside. So when it was time to do the Hampshire Duroc, you bought some breeding stock there, but I assume you also bought some weaners. How many pigs did you acquire all at once of just that breed mix?
All at once, he gave us enough to get started. So I want to say originally starting with the weaning pigs, we were around 40-something. Then we did some breeding. Had to tweak that a little bit. Had some losses with the litters. That I think was due to the biosecurity that we had with the pneumonia. So we lost a number of piglets. So really starting with the weaners, and now we're really focusing on getting the breeding going for the farrow to finish on all of those.
Yeah, excellent. So what is your sire dam setup? So when you look at your boar and your sows, are you staying with a specific sire line and multiple dams, or are you looking at trying to diversify? You've got multiple boars. And of course, what's the genetics of each of those?
So we do have 3 boars that we're keeping. Right now we have the 3 boys in with right now 32 gilts. So we have the 3 boys in there. We're going to see how that goes. We're hoping that they'll be farrowing around March, we're hoping.
Yeah. Wow, that'll be a good turn of pigs if you have that many settle.
Yes.
For certain.
So we're looking to definitely raise those numbers for 2021 as well too. New Mexico's not really known for pork, so we're really hoping with this to push it to kind of get to be one of the bigger producers in the state of pork and kind of get us on the map for that.
Excellent. Well, we're going to stick a pin in that because I like to bring that around to the end. Creature of Habit here, discuss your sales side and your production side. But let's visit the other fork in the road that I wanted to in this conversation and talk about your setup. So again, West Virginia boy, I don't know too much about the Southwest other than what I see on TV, of course. So tell me about what's pastured pig operation in New Mexico look like? When you say pasture, are we talking pasture grasses? Do you have good shade? Do you have silvopasture? What options do you have there on your property?
So shade, the only shade that we have is structures that we've put up. We have planted numerous trees, but they're not at the point yet to provide shade. So it is more prairie land with grasses. And with those paddocks that they're running through, a lot of them even do surprisingly have cactus in them as well, too. And the pigs really, really love cactus. They love to root it up and they eat it. You think they want it with a needle, but believe it or not, they've been eating cactus as well, too. They root those things up, which is great. You don't have to dig them out.
Yeah.
And then we do, once we move them from the paddock to paddock, we do overseed as well, too.
Yeah, okay. So when you say cactus, are we talking like the big tall ones that look like people, or the little flat frying pan looking ones?
The frying pan ones.
Yeah.
Arizona's got those big, humongous ones, so we don't have those, thank goodness.
Yeah, my southwestern botany ignorance is really showing itself right now. So how? That's interesting. So what is that? And man, talk about a rabbit trail. What is that as far as a nutrition source for cactus? I know it sounds like it's a nuisance plant, but is there nutritional value in a cactus for a pig?
I honestly don't know if there's nutrition in the cactus for the pig, but they seem to love it and go after it. I don't know if it adds any flavor to the meat at all, but they go for that more than like the grasses.
Yeah.
Which is really surprising until we started overspeeding with a cover crop that has like a mixture of like clover and rye and some oat in it as well too, along with some barley. And they're really loving the overspeeding, but when it's the native grasses, they really prefer to go after that cacti.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean that you may be onto something there. Iberico ham and all that pork that's acorn raised, and we talk about all that. But what about cactus raised pork?
Right.
Can have a total corner, national corner.
We do supplement feed as well too, so
sure.
We do provide for them as well too, on top of like the pasture.
Yeah. Okay, so overseeding your pastures, which I like that idea of incorporating different species of grasses that they're going to enjoy and get more nutritional value from. How does that work out as far as rainfall totals go? Is this a seasonal rain for you all? What's kind of the average rainfall? Do you have to do a lot of watering? How does that work out?
Rainfall, with it being the desert, is very hit and miss. Sometimes we're in drought. Majority of the time we are in drought. So we do a lot of supplemental watering with irrigation. So that's majority how we grow. Majority of it on our pasture is with irrigation.
Okay, so that's a decent input there. Do you have a resource? Is that a well? Is there a local reservoir? Where do you get that water from?
So we have two sources on the property. There is a well as well. And then when it does flood, we dug out a rather large pond that's on the property. That's a flood area that's on the property. So we end up pumping up quite a bit of that water when we do get those flood waters, which isn't very often, but mostly it's from the well.
Yeah, okay, good deal. That's good. It helps reduce input costs there. So you talked about paddocks. With that many hogs, how is your paddock arrangement set up? Do you have a specific size? Are you using a wagon wheel method, an alleyway method?
We are using a wagon wheel method.
Very good. Okay. So I assume your topography is decently flat, at least, to be able to accommodate that well.
It's definitely flat, so you can see for miles and miles in either direction.
Oh, wow. Okay. So for those listening, I'm sure most people know what the wagon wheel method is, but that allows you to, the hub of the wheel allows you to centralize. Do you centralize everything? Your feed, your water, your shelter?
Yes, feed and water and shelter is all centralized. And then we'll block, paddock from paddock and let them rotate around that wheel until it comes back around.
Yeah. So that becomes, I assume the hub, like most, becomes sort of a sacrificial area. with experiencing 4 seasons there, what do you do in your or what do you, I guess maybe you're just now entering into that. So what's your plans on mitigation of erosion, or maybe that's not an issue there in your hub during your non-growing season?
So the central area that gets the most traffic, they do really beat that area up pretty bad, the centralized area there. So we do kind of like a deep bedding method in that central area of that wagon wheel that's laying down tons and tons of wood chips that we have access to. So that kind of really helps. And then we do take those out with the tractor and make compost heaps. So we're really building the soil as well too, and we're spreading that, and we change that deep bedding out from that central area.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, to me that's the beauty of that, of having a sacrificial area, because it does allow you to build all of that great soil, that great compost, and then having a system in place to move it around. It becomes its own factory at some point. So that's a good deal.
Yes.
All right, so let's go on down the process. So you talked about your supplemental feed. How does that work out? And with New Mexico, sounds like it's not a big pig area. What are you doing for feed? Is there local feed sources? Do you have to travel for that? What's your ratio or ration that you're putting out?
Absolutely. So we're not in the corn belt, so cracked corn actually goes pretty expensive here. A lot of people I've spoken to back east can't believe, but usually it's about $14 per 100 pounds for cracked corn.
Wow.
So we don't do too much cracked corn. We do feed hog pellets that does get shipped in from Kansas to our local feed mill here. So we are feeding that hog pellet.
Yeah, so I assume obviously with the operation size you have, how are you all storing that? Do you have bins? Do you have large hoppers, silos? What do you?
Yes, we do have large bins that we do store that in, and then with the tractor we do take the hoppers and fill up the feeder with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you talked about, so you're obviously in your wagon wheel setup. You're using electrified fence. Do you have any backbone or perimeter fence as a backup, or what's your fence setup?
So the other fence that's ran around the property is barbed wire. It's a 5-strand barbed wire. I haven't had any escapes, thank goodness, from the electric fence. They pretty much learned to respect that pretty quick. We run it pretty hot. So I haven't had any escapes or attempted escapes that I know of, but never found them out. So there is a secondary fence on the property.
Yeah, good deal. All right. So, well, let's move back over that topic we stuck a pin in. Let's take that pin out and talk about that. So the thing I find fascinating, of course, again, is this discovery of a market. Now, in the spring and early summer of COVID, everyone thought the world was coming to an end, so there became this hoarding, food acquisition thing. Do you think that your market right now is, what's the percentage of that was reactionary, and what do you think is going to be sustainable post-COVID? Or does it seem like there's just no end in sight?
There was a lot of panic buying. A lot of our grocery stores were low on meats and eggs and everything else. So there was definitely a lot of panic buying, but I think our market will sustain everything that we are doing. We're still getting calls daily. When will you have pork ready? When will you have pork ready? So definitely we should be able to sustain the numbers that we're looking at and continue to grow the business through that.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. So let's dive into that a little deeper. So right now, are you doing? Do you have a processing schedule? Are you doing a small amount of processing on a regular rotation? Are you doing a big bulk process?
We do a big bulk processing. So we do sell retail cuts, and we do wholes and halves as well too. So the retail cuts, we do get those processed in a USDA facility. Unfortunately, here in New Mexico, there's only 2 USDA processors, but they do not do like some of the standard stuff. They don't do like bacon or certain types of things with sausage or smoking. So we do actually travel with those pigs to Amarillo, Texas, to have those processed there, the USDA retail cuts, and bring those back. But to avoid here in New Mexico, we do a lot of the wholes and halves as well too. So we
So with your holes and halves, most likely state inspected or custom exemption, that they can then do the post processing, the smoking, the curing, those type of things. But then,
Correct.
But you're going to Texas to get your retail cut. So what kind of drive is that to Amarillo?
From where we're located, it's about a 2.5-hour drive.
Oh, that's not too bad then. Yeah.
No, not too bad.
Yeah. Okay. So, so with this bulk process and retail cuts, what do you think right now your percentage of custom holes and halves to retail is as far as your total production run?
Definitely sell more retail cuts than holes and halves. With holes and halves, I find it's a little bit harder, educating like the customer of the cost. When most people see that upfront cost, it's kind of shocking to them. So you really kind of have to educate like the customer on, if you were to go to a supermarket, kind of the value savings and the better quality that they're getting. So a lot of that education goes into that with the holes and halves of, than rather a sticker shock that's going to apply. Really educating the customer. So retail cuts definitely more sell right now compared to the holes and halves.
Yeah. Okay. So bringing those retail cuts back from Texas, then do you have a large freezer? Do you just have multiple residential style walk-in? How are you managing that?
So when we did first start getting the cuts back, we did buy a number of the stand-up freezers before everybody started panic buying those.
Right, exactly.
And then we were just like, okay, we definitely need more room. So we've actually switched over to commercial freezers. So at my house, I don't even have pretty much a garage anymore. It's all commercial freezers at this point. So that's pretty much taken over my whole garage. There's a bunch of retail freezers. So
awesome. Okay, so let's look at that. So the freezers are full. You're doing a majority of your processing in cuts, and you're doing them in large batches. It sounds like. So what does that customer acquisition look like for you? How did that start, and then how are you maintaining that existing customer base and new customer base?
So starting was with farmers markets. Believe it or not, our governor was gracious enough not to shut down the farmers markets, shifting those essential. So that's really where our meat sales kicked off, and then building a customer base just off of, having people sign up with our email subscription list, and then just growing that from the two markets that we were doing.
Yeah. Two key things there. So first, let's talk about the market. So you use the word market. So I assume were you doing multiple markets? Were they multiple days through the week, or was this one gig on one weekend type of thing?
So the markets that we have here, one is on a Saturday and the other is on a Sunday. So it was on the weekends.
Yeah. So that allows you to not tie up your entire week at the market while you still got to manage farms. So that's good. So, yeah, and again, I neglected to ask you this from back at the very beginning. Patrick, are you a one-man show? Do you have help with this?
My wife and my kids help when they want to.
Yeah, I got you.
But it's mainly just me and my wife at this point.
Wonderful, good. Okay, so the other thing you mentioned was so the markets, getting customer base from there, and man, if this is where I put on my my business hat, my marketing company hat, and say, I love what you pointed out there with emails. And people think emails have gone the way of the dodo, but man, when it comes to repeat communication with a customer base that's done business with you, that is the way to go. And
it really is. And one of the things that kind of gave us a one-up in our market as well too is coming from the different business background. Is I learned a lot of farmers, they're not people. They, they would rather stay on their farms. I've learned that.
Right.
And a lot of the farmers, they don't market. I can't believe in our area, even some of our main competitors, their websites need a lot of work. Their social media presence is very, poor. So coming from that background from my other business and just having that marketing as well too, I think really helped us put us light years ahead of a lot of our competitors.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that speaks volumes, and I love to hear you say that, because sometimes I feel like I just talk out of the side of my head into a microphone, but I'd love to hear you say that about just experiencing the deficiency that most people have, but the need to apply that and see that all the way through. That we want to say, okay, if I do a good job raising a quality animal and get it quality processed, feed it the right things, give it all the attention it needs, then I should be successful. But that can fall flat on its face if you don't give that same attention to how you represent your farm and your product to your potential customers out there.
Correct. And a lot of, farmers don't make it easy to buy their products. I learned that as well, too. We're currently having our website revamped. We should hopefully have our new website up within the next 3 weeks, we're hoping. But we're having a new, beautiful website design. But a lot of farmers make it very hard to find their products, or, talking more about them and their farm and their practices. And most consumers, they just want to know, where can I find your meat and how can I buy your meat,
Yeah, excellent. So let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot here. 2 things. So going back to the farmer's market. So I can't help but think when I think of Patrick's setup at the farmer's market to sell his pork and to get people's attention, and the fact that you have a warehouse full of DJ equipment, that's got to be the most hip farmer's market setup in the world, man. It's got to be like...
So it's funny that you actually say that. So coming from the DJ background, every year we're doing massive bridal shows. And that's all about presentation, the wedding shows, how your display is set up, how your booth is set up, how to, get people into the booth. So it was taking pretty much all that information from those wedding shows and putting that into our farmers market booth. So I definitely think we had a very nice booth at the farmers market that stood up. So that definitely gave us a leg up coming from that background of just how to have, presentation tables set up, how to draw people into a booth,
right?
How to get people in and out quickly as well.
Yeah, there's definitely an art to that. And whether you have a ton of DJ equipment and all that experience, it's definitely something worth looking into, and just understanding the science of attraction. You're getting people to see the visuals, and like you said, even traffic flow, getting people to come through and move on. Because the last thing you want is to be in a market where you've got a lot of people in line and people coming in and say, "Oh wow, yeah, I'd like to get some stuff," and I ain't waiting in line that long. So being able to move people through, this even comes down to your POS systems, your point of sale. How am I going to transact? Am I going to take that credit card fee? Am I going to absorb that because I want to be as user friendly as possible? So there's a ton of stuff, and it sounds like we need to do that needs to be on my list of doing a podcast episode that focuses just on market setups. But so one more question I want to ask you, and this is actually putting you on the spot. So when people come into your market and in your farmers market booth, and you're looking to capture that email, give us the details of how you convince people to turn loose of their email address.
So we did a couple different things. Like I said, from coming from the wedding shows, on one of our tablets, we actually had a little kind of, it was a game. It's kind of like an automatic spin wheel, that if you were to spin a wheel, but it was on a tablet, and they could win certain discounts and whatnot for, putting in their information. So that was one way that we tracked it. And then offering discounts and then recipe ideas as well, too. We couldn't believe how many people, go for certain cuts of pork. And we did learn that a lot of people had to be, educated on different cuts of pork and what they could do with it. I think we were one of the first kind of in our market to really push a pork burger back, down south and back east. A lot of people don't know a pork burger, like a hamburger, but is relatively unheard of. So a lot of education, providing recipes just that people know, I can do this with ground pork. Most people didn't even know much about ground pork here besides, sausage. So that was a lot of, pushing that and educating consumers.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the idea of the element of activity. You're drawing people in with something fun, but you're using that for business standards. You're getting a data capture there, and I think about for anybody listening that's trying to wrap their brain around that. I think it's pretty elementary. But maybe if maybe it's not for you, think about right now. If I said, okay, if everybody goes to my website redtoolhouse.com, hits the contact form there. Anybody that signs up you're basically going to register to win a Pastured Pig Podcast hat. And I'm going to do a drawing here in 3 days, and we're going to give away that hat. So if you want to be in the drawing for that, just go to the website, fill out their little registration form, and we'll draw your name for that hat. So just that simple mechanism right there has provided a data capture opportunity for you. So that's what I love about what you're saying there is people that come in, if they buy from you, they may or may not give you your email address, even if they're a customer. So you have that vehicle in place, but then even people that are coming around just being tire kickers right now. Well, I'm not quite sure, I don't know what to do with ground pork. Oh yeah, but I'll spin the wheel. That's kind of fun. I'll do that. Here's my information. So not only is it an opportunity to communicate with existing customer base, but it's an opportunity to onboard new potential customers that come through.
Yes.
Sorry, I got on my soapbox there, but no, I love the fact that you have that in place, and I think this is me talking from across the country here and not even seeing you face to face, but I think that is what you can attribute a lot of your business success to, and the fact that you're able to ramp up this way, that your customer base is there, they know what product you're producing, and they know how to reach out to you, and they know to expect to hear communication from you as well.
Yes. And, there is probably, tons of other farmers that are gathering some type of contact list as well, too. But, the art is really in the follow-up as well, too. Because, on average, it takes about 6 to 7, exposures just to sometimes get somebody to, open an email. So
right.
Some people will be like, well, I sent out an email and, I did it once and I didn't get anything. So, we were able to take that information and use some of the software tools I carried over from my other business, to automate those emails and automate, the contact stuff coming in. So you're not having to live out of the computer. You can simply automate it and make your life simple, and your, website or whatnot's making you money while you sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. So speaking of website, one more question, and we'll get off the marketing kick here, but one more question. So you're developing a new website. Are you going to provide online retail cut sales through your website?
Yes, we will be. So the website we have right now is a real generic one that I want to say I threw together through one of the sites. I forget who it was. So it's a real generic one that we have now. But we didn't really know how successful and how it was going to go. So I'm actually investing, in having the new one built. Like I said, it should be out in about the next 3 weeks. They should be finished with it. So we're putting a lot of different ways to order, different type of boxed options of meat cuts that we can offer. And kind of like a CSA meat membership box is what we're going to be offering as well, too.
Excellent. Yeah, so that was going to be my next question, because this is the part that you always find tricky with online sales when it comes to food products like this, where weight is a key point. So you can say, okay, we've got pork chops all day long, but my package of pork chops, there's hardly any of them that weigh the same weight. So your weight-based pricing, the way to get around that well is by doing these boxes and these prepackaged deals, or by doing your own categories. There's multiple ways to do it, but it sounds like that's how you're handling that, is by doing these box packages.
Right. So, and that's one of the things, funny that you mentioned that, one of the kinks that me and my wife are currently working on. As you said, one pack of pork chops weighs, different weight than another. So that's one way we're looking at on how we're going to price structure that as well, too. So, definitely I'll have to let you know when we come to 100%, agreement, me and her on that, on how we're going to price, like the CSA meat tray box.
Yeah, and I've seen various situations. We run into that too. We also do pastured poultry here on farm, so we run into that as well. And you discover that you can do some of these groupings in some categories to say, and for chicken, maybe pork chops you could as well. Haven't really thought about it much for pork chops, but this range that for X amount of dollars, you're going to get 3 packs of pork chops that range in this price or this weight category, and allow people to buy the mid or the small, the mid, and the heavy pork chop packages based upon that, and that at least gives you variety in being able to sell online, but you don't have to have this a product for every single pack of pork chops you have, and that's where the issue comes on a website is if you've got 300 packs of pork chops, is that 300 inventory items you've got to put on your website.
Right. So we were talking about the ranges, and that's probably what we're going to go with. is, going to be a weight around this.
Yeah, yeah, and I think again that comes back to, as you mentioned earlier, with educating the customer to make sure they understand what indeed they're getting for that price. And,
Right.
and you find a way to value add things. If people have a hard time wrapping their brain around it, then you just find a way to value add that with some other element that's a low cost for you.
And then also throughout this all too, and like I said, jumping, Pete first in, I definitely have to give credit to you and your YouTube channel and Jordan Green as well too. Your YouTube channel and your podcast and Jordan Green's as well too. Just the information that we absorbed and learned from that was definitely a huge helper for us.
Well, thank you. Now, I got to say, to mention my name with Jordan Green name, I'm very humbled and flattered by that, because that Jordan Green is obviously doing as scale that's just makes mine look like I'm playing with toys over here. But I love what you can glean from Jordan, and we had Jordan on the podcast. So if you guys listen, if you haven't listened to that one, then by all means go back and do so. If I was a good podcaster, I'd have that number right here, but I don't. But just search Jordan Green, you'll find it. But yeah, again, that's what I love about. That's why I love doing the podcast is just to share this information, because I learn from every single person I talk to. I learn something that I could possibly apply to my operation. I learn all the time that I would love to do a wagon wheel. It's just my land doesn't allow me to do so.
Right.
It drives me crazy.
You kind of got to roll with what you have,
Yeah,
Definitely. Your guys' videos, it was particularly one of the videos when you were breaking down the cost. I believe it was like 3 hogs of the profits, and then also watching Jordan's video of, I believe it was like 400 pigs on scale, and that's when we were really kind of like, hey, we can do this.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's not as simple as saying, well, if I raise 2 hogs, I can raise 200 hogs. But
oh no,
yeah, but
a lot more work comes with it.
Exactly, but there is a scalability thing there. It's like, wow, okay, this can scale up pretty quickly, and I do have to do more work and put more infrastructure in, but it's still, 2 pigs, 200 pigs, they still act the same way. We just got to be able to handle them at a larger size. So,
absolutely.
Excellent. Well, great, man. I appreciate it. I'm not going to talk your ear off here, but I want to ask you, what is your long-term goal? I mean, this is you're moving at light speed. You're on the Enterprise doing warp 9. It sounds like. So how do you even forecast next year or the next 5 years in this circumstance?
So we're actually planning on growing the farm with the COVID. Like I said, never in a million years I think my first production business would be shut down due to government orders. I've learned, people still have to eat 3 times, a day. So it's definitely job security in agriculture. So we are going to, like I said, continue to scale, but we are going to be adding broilers into the mix as well too, turkeys. Since we were doing the pork, we've been bombarded. Hey, do you do chicken? Do you do duck? Do you do turkey? Do you offer lamb, goat? So there's a lot of different things we can venture into, and we are going to, for the 2021 year, really get involved in the broilers because there is a huge market for that.
Yeah, I like that, and I
love the 8-week turnaround too.
Exactly. Well, that's the first thing that pops in my mind, and that was our real motivation is the cash flow. An 8-week window from chicks coming from the hatchery to ending up in a freezer is fantastic, and that cash flow is extremely helpful. I utilize that to really help do things that I want to do more with the pigs, because when you look at a 7-month cash flow, that's a little different, of course, than if you're doing beef. Then my goodness, you're looking at 16 months to 24 months cash flow. So that really becomes a great opportunity there when you diversify, and we definitely need to do a podcast episode about that as well as polyculture on a pig farm. So.
Yeah, and we love the fact that our bird zone has to be USDA processed here. We can fall under, I believe, a 20,000 bird limit.
Yeah.
So that was very appealing to us as well too. So.
Yeah, we have that same option here in West Virginia. It becomes very, very handy. Well, all right. Well, Patrick, let me close out with a question I ask everyone, and you're not going to escape it either, is what is your best experience or favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
How smart of an animal they are. I never realized how smart they were, and they're almost kind of like people. They all have different personalities, and just how excited they see, when I pull up in my truck every day, how, they're running and making barking sounds, and they're just so excited. They're an awesome animal to be around, and they get a bad rap from a lot of people from thinking, they're filthy animals, but they're extremely clean and intelligent. They're just fun to be around.
Yeah, I agree 100%. They are just a fascinating animal, and definitely personality. Yeah, you can go to look at any pig. Like I think of my sows that I have. It's like, okay, this one has this personality and this temperament. This one has that, and yeah, I could just, if I was blindfolded and had to interact with the two sows, I could tell you exactly which was which just by, the way they interact, the way they grumble, the way they even kind of push me around a little bit, go in between my legs to get ear scratchings, that type of stuff. It's really neat. They are fascinating animals.
Yes, they are.
Well, all right. Well, Patrick, if people want to find out more about your operation, and obviously this new website, I'm sure we all want to check it out when it rolls out. We're actually recording this in mid-December, so when it goes live, his website may actually be live by the time this goes out. So what's that URL that people can check out?
It will be MilliganRanchNM.com.
Milligan Ranch NM for New Mexico.com. Very good.
Correct.
Any other online presence where they can check you out?
Facebook and Instagram, same handle, Milligan Ranch NM on both Facebook and Instagram as well.
So am I the only one that, after hearing that, I kind of think of Pastured Pig House Party or Fairween Barn House Party, kind of the pigs on one side and going on, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, I really enjoyed that conversation with Patrick. It's interesting. You see that business acumen, having experience in business, how that does translate. He's not selling mad beats anymore. he's selling pork, but there's a lot of things that carry over. A lot of the experiences that he has in having a successful business pre-COVID have transferred over and allowed him to kind of kick it into high gear. So, man, I pray he has great success with that. And who knows, after the COVID thing starts to subside, maybe he does both. Maybe he is the disco pig farmer. We'll see. Well, again, I appreciate everyone listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with hopefully another great episode, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. That literally was a situation last couple weeks ago. We had severe flooding, so it hampered some of our activities. Keep in mind, remember, if you've got a vet, APB for vets, just go to redtoolhouse.com. Click on the Pastured Pig podcast link. There's a little form there. You can drop me a line and let me know if you've got a veterinarian that you think would be willing to talk, or just simply email me, Troy at Red Tool House, and we'll get the ball rolling there. Also, just if you've got any other topics you'd like to discuss, go over, then we'll definitely do that. I'm always open to some great suggestions. Don't forget about Patreon. Feel free to go to our link and get more details of what we've got going on there. Even if you just contribute at the $5 level, that would really be helpful. It's going to allow us to invest in some of these things that have monthly costs and the things that we want to expand. So it would be great if you could do that. Well, I pray everyone have a great week out in the pasture. I hope things are warming up. You all up in New England, I hope maybe some of that snowbank is melting, and you guys will hopefully see some ground soon. All right, take care, everybody.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes,
Visit